days. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have today a very long stream. I'm going to be live for I don't know how long, but interesting developments and topics to discuss when it comes to anime, generally. I'm not sure how many people who will be on the stream will be anime fans to say, but there's very interesting things happening right now in the world of anime, especially when it comes to Blue Lock, Spike's family, like each and every aspect of anime that I've been tapped into, it's coming back to life. And the most sad thing is the final season of My Hero Academia. To some people, that might be something easy to deal with, but I'm not ready to let go of My Hero Academia. It was better since the last season was dropped and then we forgot about it, but now that it's back, you know that it's the final season, and you know that the manga actually ended the story, so a ending in anime is not really good, especially I saw when it comes to Jujutsu Kaisen, because we wrapped up the story and it was sad, and one thing that will bring back that trauma will be, what do you call this? It will be the end of the anime too, So as a manga reader, having to go through this type of situations, and then you get to watch the manga, the anime, you read the manga, the manga, you're excited, like the Shigaraki and Deku fight was really cool. I don't wanna lie, it was really fire. And then you had to enjoy that, and then react to the life of these heroes after the incident, of Shigaraki and All For One. And then you feel the depression that you're gonna get as a My Hero Academia fan. Because I don't wanna lie, those were my heroes too, But I'm really glad that we have to be a Hero X. I'm really glad that we have to be a Hero X, because I know it won't replace My Hero Academia, but at least we'll still have some heroes to to celebrate, and One Punch Man has also made its return. So there's a lot of hero activity that will be going on in the few years to come, which is something that's epic. But the end of My Hero Academia won't be really easy, because when you think of the likes of Might Guy, you know, in the previous episode of My Hero Academia, I think it's episode 2 or 1. Yes, it's episode 1. We start off with the fight between Shigaraki, not even Shigaraki, but All For One and All Might, Even though All Might is quite less right now, he's using the power of technology, which is something that's interesting, I don't wanna lie. So seeing this guy come back like the way he did, it will always prove that he is a hero and he's more crazy or crazier than we expected. I don't wanna lie. Prepared and not with that, So very, very interesting things, I don't wanna lie. And then when you go back to what's this? When you go back to Deku and Byakugo, and their relationship and how things are about to change right now, we all know that they've always been boys, and even though Deku is not Byakugo's best friend, like we once said it to end up, but they are still friends, and they know each other better than anyone else, to be exact. So, yes. So this is quite a very, very sad time, but I'll still have to react to the return of One Punch Man. I haven't tapped into One Punch Man, but I am sure that my To Be a Hero X will be a very good anime, not to replace My Hero Academia, but to transition towards, because even though the hero system is not the same, because in My Hero Academia we had villains and we had heroes, but in this story, to be exact, you are not even sure who is a hero and who's a villain, because it seems like all of this is being controlled by the higher ups, which is very insane. I don't want to lie. The way they control everything to be a hero X is quite interesting. Because when we were introduced to the first hero, I thought that he's a good guy, only to find out that they're able to change a good guy into a bad guy in that series, and then you're like, what's happening? But it is insane when it comes to be a hero X, because when you look at it, they are actually streaming and they're using the internet to actually power people up, which is something that is way too relevant to today. Even I depend on the trust of people. Like how long you decide to stay in this live will be the decide of this video. Oh, awusavukanga late. Umangela ukuthi ubani lo? Who is this? Ah. But yeah, to be a Hero X is going to be a very, very interesting watch. I don't wanna lie, because it's only been the first season, and the first season is packed with very, very much action. I don't wanna lie, and to be quite frank, when my to be a Hero X started, I was like, nah, there's no reason for me to be interested. Okay, so let me just continue where I left off, and yeah, it was quite a very good watch when it comes to the Hero X. I don't wanna lie, we need to give it its flowers, but My Hero Academia has reached the end of its debut or its show, But I hope that we're going to rejoice, instead of crying like I did, because I really didn't like the ending of My Hero Academia. Because why would you end My Hero Academia? I feel like you just had to bring another villain, another big bad villain, and that would have been a very good way to bounce back for the show. But it wasn't possible. I have to say, I'm really quite disappointed. And then moving on, I have to say, the return of Spike's family. You know, the return of Spike's family. I'm talking about the likes of Anya Forger. I'm talking about the likes of Lloyd. Those characters. I really, really enjoy them. Especially Frank. Frank is the very, very most important part in this show, because he is the only comedian that we have. Frank is genuinely fun, and I think losing Frank would be really hurtful for many fans when it comes to Spike's family. So I really appreciate the return, and thank you to Netflix for not killing our show, especially when it comes to everything else. They didn't kill the show. They really tried to keep the show going. And then I really have to say that I really have to say that it has been a very good journey when it comes to anime, especially when it comes to what's this? OPS and bad internet. I don't wanna lie. It's really bad. But yeah, so I'll just move on to Baki. Baki Rahen has to be one of the boring manga right now, but it has taken a very good shift. I don't wanna lie, because we were dealing with Jack Hanma for a very long time, and when it comes to Baki, I think Baki is about Baki. But one thing to remember is that most of the characters in Baki right now, they cannot fight our main character. Like, Baki has so much aura in such a way that these guys cannot stand with him in one ring anymore. I really find it hard to see any character trying to go in the boxing ring with Baki, because I really think that right now it means, or it equates to death. Because I really feel like Baki will destroy you until you die right now. Baki is not the same character that we used to know of. But it was really good seeing it. And there was a guy who tried to jump, who is this Baki Rahen, which is quite absurd. Why would you jump the strongest man in the world? Only to find out that this guy didn't believe that Baki is as strong as everybody claims he is. Like, what? You would put your own life at risk just to prove your own disbeliefs about a man. Because to tell you the truth, I'm really happy to know that Baki is back in the front lines of the story. Jack Hanma and the biting, it's Godot or something like that. It's not something I was interested in, to be specific. But when it comes to Baki Hanma, he has grown, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact is, as much as Yujiro Hanma was taking a step away from the anime or the manga, Yujiro Hanma had a little screen time, which now translates to Baki, because Baki is the strongest man. We need to go with Jack Hanma for now. That's the only option that we have, because I think Jack Hanma is the biggest or is the only character that has so much development left for him. Because I really feel like Hanayama has reached his prime. I don't see Hanayama getting stronger than this, because after the Musashi fight, I really believe that we're gonna get a different Hanayama. Hanayama is not going to be pushed by the likes of Jack. But to my surprise, I found out that Jack Hanma was able to beat Hanayama. I know it was a technicality. Hanayama was able to knock out Jack and all that, but at the end, Jack Hanma was still standing, which was quite disappointing for me. I don't wanna lie. I don't know anybody else, but Jack Hanma and Godot, I don't know what we're going to get from them, but I am really hoping to see something epic, because the way that Yujiro Hanma left it, it was like, you know what? You also have the potential to reach the height me and Baki are in. You just have to really focus on that and continue giving your all to reaching that goal. So will we see Jack Hanma as the strongest man or the strongest creature in the Bakiverse? Of course, I do believe that he has it in him, because he's really insane. I don't want to lie. When it comes to insanity, I think Jack Hanma is first, because even Pickle, Pickle is an ancient man, but he saw that when it comes to Jack Hanma, it's not normal. I need to tread lightly when it comes to Jack Hanma, and I really need to be careful. So I really believe that it was a very good display of attitude and growth from who is this? From Jack Hanma, But let me bring in something back, while I'm talking about this. Let me bring back the display capture, because I think it is time that I brought it back, I think it is time that we go to display capture, and then blue lock. Yeah, so I'm just going to start with the grappler Baki and just enter the community, and just find out what the community is saying and what they're generally thinking about, talking about. But it was a very, very good chapter, I don't wanna lie. And what is Okurin doing here? I don't understand how Dadan and Baki are related at all. I really find it hard. Me 5 seconds before getting my face caved in. Yeah, that's what you get. So I've never seen Hanayama get this mad before. Is this even real? Nah, this can't be real, right? Oh my god. That sound is so depressing. Ah, fuck. The child is immortal. Ah, that time I really thought that he almost tore my finger off. And I just have to say that I'm really disappointed when it comes to Hanayama, because I really thought that Hanayama had the ability to become the strongest. I really believe that Hanayama had the ability to become the strongest ever in the show. But I think we will stick around in this packet, in this panel. But there's nothing going on when it comes to now this panel has to be the greatest panel ever. You know, I have to say, because I think in this moment, Baki Hanma defeated Musashi Miyamoto. I know that when we read anime or when we go through anime, we have our own perspectives and we believe in different things. But I really feel like in this point, to be exact, this was the time whereby Baki Hanma was capable of beating Miyamoto Musashi. Because there's nobody who had pushed Musashi to this corner before. You know, this was really, really impressive from Baki, I don't wanna lie, because even this old woman had a chance to come and take out Musashi Miyamoto's soul. You know, I really think that this opportunity wouldn't have come if it wasn't for Baki. And this was the best way to end Musashi's legacy without him getting defeated, because I really feel like it would have been wrong for Musashi to be resurrected only for him to get beaten by Baki Hanma. You know, if when it comes to dead legends, I really believe that we should let them die and you should let their legacy stay intact. But Baki almost beat Musashi right here, you know. And most people I know that they may not believe something like that, but this is the closest point I've seen Musashi to defeat. And uh, uh, they announced the animation of this arc, of the Musashi arc. So we are going to have Musashi Miyamoto like cutting everybody up for a very long time in the future, which is something that's impressive for me, I don't wanna lie. I'm really looking forward to that arc, because when it comes to Ichiro Hanma, very interesting things happened in this arc. It was the first time we've seen Ichiro Hanma defeated or being protected, which is something insane. Like, you wouldn't expect anyone to protect Yujiro Hanma, but it did happen right in front of our eyes. We were there, all of us to witness. And who was this guy who protected Yujiro Hanma? Who are you again? But this guy uses weapon, and most characters in the Bakiverse, they didn't want to fight him using his. Not even most of the characters. It's just the general rules of the arena that when we fight, no weapons are allowed. But that guy runs a dojo and he uses weapons, and the only fight that he could get with his weapons was against Musashi Miyamoto. And at the end of the day, it looked like Musashi came out on top, because he was able to cut off his arms, he was able to cut off his legs, not even cut off, but like break them, and that was insane. But in the end, that old man found a way to beat Musashi. Even Musashi accepted it at the end of the day and was like, oh, this is what you meant. And I really feel like Musashi experiencing defeat for the first time then and there, it was excellent. But the thing is, Baki was not going to protect Musashi, he was going to beat Musashi Miyamoto, and that would have altered history as we know it. it's very much bad to take a legend and then you downgrade them to anything you like. No, I think no one should be allowed to do something like that. But ladies and gentlemen, Netflix has allowed the animation of, and then there's this guy. I even forgot his name. He just annoys me. I don't wanna lie. He really annoys me. But there's nothing much going on when it comes to the previous episode, you know. Because in the previous episode of, not even episode, but in chapter 53, we only got to see Dopo Orochi with his students and all that. And ladies and gentlemen, the moment I'm anticipating in Baki, you know, I really think it will be a very good time to see Biscuit Oliver begging Baki for a fight. You know, most people would be like, why would Biscuit Oliver ask Baki for a fight? But I don't know if you remember the scene where Baki was in prison and Oliver pissed on Baki. You know, that was something that I didn't expect from Oliver, but Biscuit Oliver did that. You know, he pissed on Baki, and Baki told him that, you know what, one day you will beg me for a fight. You will be on your knees begging me for a fight, you know. Which is something I'm really looking forward to happening, you know. I really don't wanna lie. It's one of my most anticipated fights. It is one of my most anticipated fights. It's up there, I don't wanna lie. And then when it comes to another character, it has to be Pickle. You know, when it comes to Pickle, I feel like we've been robbed. You know, when it comes to Pickle, I feel like we've been robbed in such a way that this man had to come out as the strongest man in the verse right now. But in this day and age, he can't even beat Jack Hanma. You know? Okay, when it comes to Jack Hanma, I feel like maybe Pickle didn't fail to beat Jack Hanma, but it was just a sense of admiration that at least I have someone who is biting now in this era, you know, because I really feel like Pickle felt bad about what he did to, I don't know, it was Karu or something like that, you know. He felt bad about eating people at the end of the day because it was something that was not allowed, and Pickle was really quick to pick up on that because every time he tried to bite someone, everyone would react in a funny way, you know. But now that he has Jack Hanma, you know, it feels like he's not the only creature or the only being with these cares of having to bite other people to exercise their power. Because to Pickle, biting is not a technique, but it's his way of life, you know. That's how he used to fight with all the dinosaurs and all the prehistoric creatures. So I really feel like when it comes to Pickle, we were robbed. You know, when it comes to Pickle, we were very much robbed, and it equates to betrayal at this point. I don't want to lie. It has to be betrayal. But if it has to be me, when you ask me about current Oliver versus current Pickle, you know, current Oliver and current Pickle, I don't think it's a very close battle. I really believe that Oliver would lose in a very bad manner. I really think that he would lose very badly. But there's nothing much going on in the Bakiverse. I really have to say, nothing much after the chapter, which is quite disappointing. Because I really think that chapter was really much impressive. Reading the manga, I noticed Ego's line, I changed. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Fuck off. Oh. Nah, Ego is different, I have to say, you know. Ego is very different. Peak haircut. Like, I don't understand why do people hate Michael Kaiser so much. You know, this is quite a shock. Because I feel like Michael Kaiser has done way too much for Prologue. Even for Isagi, you know. Nothing about the chapter 2. how I thought Isagi was gonna be. Nah, this is actually true. This is actually true. I really have to say. Nah, we're reacting to this one.
Producer, I cook. But from what I can tell, you are just a drug addict. You are a pathetic junkie. Too stupid to understand and follow simple.
The Demon King Isagi. Nah, Isagi, I thought Isagi was going to be like Deku too, you know. I thought Isagi was going to be a good character, but now my boy Isagi was like, fuck everything. I'm him.
Rudimentary instructions. Too stupid to.
Oh, who is Isagi in this case? I thought Victor would be Isagi.
I'm the producer.
But now I don't understand.
I cook. But from what I can tell, you are just a drug addict. You are a pathetic junkie. Too stupid to understand and follow simple rudimentary instructions. Too stupid to.
Nah, that's a good meme. I don't wanna lie. It's a very good meme. Even though it's a bit confusing, I would have to say. But highlight of the week when it comes to Block, this is a very terrible picture, I have to say. Don't we have a better picture than this one? We really deserve a better picture. There's nothing about the previous chapter, which is quite disappointing, I have to say. Fully covered chapter of chapter 141. Nah, these are the good old days. These are the good old days, I have to say. This is just the good old days, you know. But it's fine. I know that the One Piece community has to have something going on. The One Piece community has to have something going on. Already, I knew it, you know. When it comes to the One Piece community, you will enjoy yourself. So I'm part of the David Land now too. They welcomed me among them, even though I was just a mere pirate. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, this woman is the greatest thing to ever happen. You know, because she only didn't show us that Rox Dizzyback is a strong man. He is also a loving man. You know, so if it is up to me and if I had to select goated characters in One Piece, I would include her. You know, because as a side character, I think she is the most impact in the One Piece story. You know, but it was really nice seeing the David and I don't wanna lie. Seeing the David and was a banger. Sup? Menog. Oh, what's up, man? Long time no see, boys. It's been a while since you've been on the stream, you know. So when the youngest sibling wants recognition from the older ones, you know, hey, you two, check this out. You know, so this is one thing about this chapter of One Piece, because I remember me and my chat a few weeks ago, or before the drop of this banger episode or banger chapter, we definitely had a feeling that there is no way that Rox Dizzyback was betrayed. We knew it, that, you know, when it comes to Rox's crew, you know, it might feel like there are a lot of betrayals, but as time progressed, I had a feeling that there is no fucking way that Shiki betrays Roger, or not even Roger, but there is no way that Shiki betrays Zebek. You know, I just had that feeling that there is no way. And it is true, because no one in the Rox Pirates betrayed Rox himself. But I know they had ambitions, not even they had, but I know that Big Mom was the only crew member that had ambitions of starting their own crew, you know. So this is something that's very much interesting. But when it comes to the Rox Pirates, I knew that they didn't betray our Rox. I just had a feeling that when you think about it, there is no way that Whitebeard betrays anyone. Even Kaido, you know, Kaido is a real nigga. So it's true, they are all knocked out captains. No kidding. Was that even stronger than Red Hairs? There was no hostility to it. So I really have to say this is the most influential panel to me in One Piece, because this panel puts Shanks in levels far beyond than anyone else could imagine. Most people would be like, why? You know, these two guys grew up with one person that was very interesting. You know, Dory and Brogy were the right and left hand men of King Harold himself. Oradila, how are you, Poison? How are you, Oradila? But Dory and Brogy were both in the part of the giant Dora pirates, the first ones. I'm not sure what they were called. But when they felt Joy Boy's hug, they didn't feel like it was King Harold. Why am I bringing up King Harold? King Harold is an equal to Rock's Dizzyback himself, so there is definitely no way that these guys just forgot about those type of characters and then they went straight to Shanks. No ways. But Joy Boy and Shanks is just a very interesting relationship to me. I don't know. I find it very much interesting. I really find it to be very interesting. Dory and Brogy. I really have to say these guys are the kings. Can Vivi control an ancient weapon? So I think to Vivi, it won't be a matter of controlling the weapons and all. I feel like, especially, am I the only one that feels like everything is falling into place for One Piece? Because people might feel like Vivi will be controlling ancient weapons like right now, but I feel like that's not the most important thing that Vivi can play. Vivi has always been for the people, and she always does good by the people. So I really think that the Vivi and Morgan, it wasn't a coincidence, but I think those two will be the very biggest force against the world government. you know what are you talking about, Poison? I'm just doing a recap on One Piece and Blue Lock. I know you're not on Blue Lock anymore, but I'm doing a recap on Blue Lock, Baki, and yeah, I think that's the three that I covered already. So when it comes to Nefertari Vivi, I really feel like she's not going to be focusing much on weapons. Instead, she will be focusing on getting the word out, because as much as Imu is influential, I feel like Nefertari Vivi from Alabaster Kingdom would 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 move people more than anyone else. I really feel like when it comes to a revolutionary, it has to come from Vivi and Morgan themselves. I don't know how they will stage this and how they will find an agreement between the two of them, but I really feel like Vivi needs to address the world of One Piece pronto, especially pronto. Rocks, Whitebeard, and Blackbeard. What hurts the most is realizing that Rocks would have hated to see what his son turned to. This is sad and yet it is true. This is really sad and yet it is true, you know? Because Newgate and Rocks are as tight as it can get. Newgate and Rocks are as tight as they can get. And their relationship, up until now, it has shown us that Teach might have taken dark steps, but we have to understand why. We have to understand why. Because as much as David Dizzyback was a great pirate, he had a clan behind him. He had a place to call home. So what about Teach? Because Teach seemed to have lived in a very dark fate for a very long time. Because unlike Shanks, who grew up in Roger's crew, it seems like Teach had to survive elsewhere for him to actually stand a chance to meet with Newgate. So I really feel like Teach had very dark days and dark years in him. So the biggest question was, how did, because I really feel like Whitebeard already knew. I feel like Whitebeard already knew, because if Whitebeard had an idea that Ace had to be Roger's son, you know, he must have known that he had Rox's son too. And I feel like there's reasons why Teach maybe Whitebeard didn't reveal that Rox and Teach were related, because of the favor. What do you call this? Because of what happened with Ace, some pirate members just thought that Whitebeard wanted to make Ace the pirate king, which it's true to some degree, but maybe he was protecting Teach also, because him not putting it out there that he has Roxy's kid in his ship, it really puts Teach into safer grounds than you might expect, because I know for a fact that if there's a kid that would have been hunted down by the world government, it's Teach. So did Blackbeard and Whitebeard, yeah, Whitebeard had to know that Teach was Roxy's son. Yeah, he had to know. He had to know, because the resemblance is very much uncanny, dog. These guys are way too similar. And then we have the man or the woman of the hour. I'm sure already, dog, you've been rejoicing with the previous chapter, because I feel like some of the previous topics we discussed thoroughly. But there were plot twists, I have to say. Now I understand why Sage Satan had to go, because this really paints a very dark picture of Saint Satan and what he's capable of. Because he's able to summon the remaining of the Goroseis. Now he's capable of being an avatar for him. Now Saint Satan had to go. I think the predictions of Blackbeard killing Shanks is becoming much more realistic because of our blood thread. Now I really feel way more distant, because I really feel like these ships are burning. They burn to a crisp. Who is this? When it comes to Blackbeard and Shanks, I don't feel like these guys are going to kill each other anymore. Because right now it feels like our forces are not enough to kill Emu.